London, hello. December 20th, my video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour could be equally addictive around people, places, things, obsessed about getting things right and trying to be right and striving to be right, all those things. And a bit of a pain in the neck, I suspect, because I was never satisfied with what I was doing. Always looking for the next right thing and probably trying to fix myself so that the world would accept me for who I was. But I had no clue really who I was. I was always trying to be something that other people maybe would like and love. So these days I've set the expectations to zero on a daily basis. So if anything good happens, it's a surprise. If anything bad happens, I can probably cope with it. And indeed it might be a surprise too. So recovery for me is a one-day program, 24 hours long, 8 hours of which most people have to sleep. I don't know about me, I'm a bit of an insomniac, but that's just me. So recovery is what these videos is all about, and what helped me? Well, family, friends, community, medical people, kept me alive long enough to get a moment of clarity, as is often said, somewhere around rock bottom. How bad can it get before we actually say to ourselves, I can't do this on my own, I need some help, rather than trying to run on self-will, run riot. And that took a long time. I was a drinker for 35 years. And a lot of the time it seemed I was having a good time, but I've realised now that it was sort of superficial fun. It was sort of indifferent and superficial rather than deep, cherishing and good for me. So nourishment, emotional and spiritual, is what keeps me going on a daily basis today, rather than things, material. And December 20th, -4 here in the UK in the early morning, and -20 in some parts of the UK. It's not good. Anyway, I've got my thermal curtains shut to keep me warm, and what helped me most in recovery, not my thermal curtains, a fellowship, and that fellowship is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And I share about AA and what it's done for me. I don't represent AA, never can, never will. It's full of unique, authentic people who can speak for themselves where they will. Unique, authentic people with a similar condition, that is a desire to be sober today. And the fellowship comprised of people new, less than a day sober, or even still drunk, through to people decades sober. And we're all in the same day, in the same boat, afloat on an ocean of alcohol around us. And it's easy to dive back in. So the reasons why I talk about fellowship and Alcoholics Anonymous is simply because on a daily basis we can go somewhere, share our experience, strength and hope of how it is and how it was. And in that process we let go the problems we may have, or the happiness we may have. So in a meeting of AA you will find people who are extremely happy, extremely sad, and somewhere in the middle where most people reside, in what is called normal life, normal living. So fellowship provides me with a bridge back to more modern, ordinary, extraordinary living in the moment and seeing reality as it is, with less denials and less filters about my situation and the situation of the people around me who I care for. So what is AA? The AA preamble, I'll share that, and it's important. I have purposeful forgetting around what it says in this little preamble on this card. I always use the card simply because if I recite it, it's just a recitation. It's just something I've learned to say. But the preamble means a lot to me because it actually expresses what fellowship is about. So here we go. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And that's what fellowship is. But people in the fellowship have alliances with sects, denominations, politics, organisations and institutions, and they do engage in controversy outside the fellowship. They endorse or oppose causes, and that's the way it is. We're unique, authentic people with an outlook on life which is being improved by being sober and seeing reality, and being able to conduct life as it is, given the circumstances in which we live. So, although the fellowship remains focused on one single purpose, primary purpose, for people who have a desire to be sober, to come along free of charge and make a contribution if they can to the rent, the coffee, the tea, just the general running expenses. And if there's any excess, it goes towards literature and administrative costs. There's no profit and no, I suppose, reserve beyond the prudent reserve within the fellowship. So in itself it remains an organisation without deep pockets, and that's part of humility. It runs on a daily basis with a fellowship of people, and it doesn't accumulate large reserves to start up programs or processes which really have nothing to do with sobriety on a daily basis. So a fellowship of people meeting as they will, where they will, and that's all good. It keeps me focused on sobriety today. AA won't fix a thing. It can't fix a thing. It can't fix a person. A person learns how to be sober, improve attitude and behaviour towards seeing reality as it is. And that's so important. And the reason why I've said all that is I'm going to cover the 12 traditions after the daily reading I do on this video. So today's daily reflection, which is about step 12 and tradition 12, 12 steps for individuals, all about being open, honest and willing to live life as it is, and 12 traditions which hold the fellowship together. So individuals remain unique and authentic with one similarity, and the fellowship has one primary purpose. So it's not a cult, and I thought it might be when I first went along, because everybody seemed to be so blinking happy, and they weren't. There were a lot of people who weren't, and they expressed it, and that surprised me. And I thought, well, this can't work, can it? My ego said I knew better, and I went back out for 5 years after my first meeting because I was ignorant of my own malady. Anyway, for December the 20th at -4 in London, the rewards of giving. This is indeed the kind of giving that actually demands nothing. He does not expect his brother sufferer to pay him or even to love him, and then he discovers that by the divine paradox of this kind of giving, he has found his own reward, whether his brother has yet received anything or not. And when we talk about 12-step work, we work with people who may want to be sober or not sober. We work with people who are in the malady, but it doesn't mean we can help them, and often we can't. Like me, I couldn't hear it, and I couldn't listen to it, and I couldn't actually take it in, that I needed to change me, not the world. Through experience with 12-step work, I came to understand the rewards of giving that demands nothing in return. At first I expected recovery in others, but I soon learned that this did not happen. Once I acquired the humility to accept the fact that every 12-step call, that is helping another person understand how to get sober, or that there is a way forward in how we can do it, a path. Then I was open to receive step calls not going to result in success. Then I was open to receive the rewards of selfless giving, which means that we don't dismiss people who, say, get lost, or we don't dismiss people who are still stuck in the malady, and have no capacity to take on any concept or idea of how to stop drinking. We just accept that some of us, like me, on first approach, might say get lost, and that's all right, because we're not there to corral or make people sober. We can't do that. It's up to a person to make the change when they're ready, with help, with love and support, and that's what fellowship provides. And a toolkit, how to stay stopped once you've stopped drinking. And I will share the Serenity Prayer at the midway point in my video now. So, to God or good conscience, depending on your belief system and faith. Each person has their unique perspective, faith and understanding, either about God or no God, or simply simply good conscience. So, to God or good conscience, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is just for today. And I've got a few minutes left. So, the 12 steps and 12 traditions. 12 steps for an individual to change their attitude and behaviour and start to love themselves and love other people again, or for the first time, because sometimes we've never experienced love, real love, and we've never been able to share love. So we're all in the same boat, learning about life, and the program is emotional, spiritual, physical well-being. It's not about logic, it's not about thinking. That comes naturally later. We change our understanding of the world as we think and learn. So, emotional and spiritual and physical well-being, 12 steps. But in this book today, 12 steps and 12 traditions, I want to just talk or share what we call the long form of the 12 traditions, which I thoroughly understand in my own way, but I've only got my own understanding, and it's always being improved by what other people say. It says here, the 12 traditions, long form, page 193. 1. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is but a small part of a great whole. AA must continue to live, or most of us will surely die. Hence, our common welfare comes first, but individual welfare follows close afterward. And what's most important is individuals retain their outlook, their unique, authentic outlook of life, and that is sacrosanct. Second, for our group purpose there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. And for people like me, still not sure what God may be for other people, but for me God is truth. So group conscience, God is truth, love and wisdom. It may not be my opinion or my faith, but the group conscience provides an overarching understanding of what is good for everyone, and not necessarily what I feel is good for me and everyone. 3. Our membership ought to include all who suffer from alcoholism, hence we may refuse none who wish to recover, nor ought AA membership ever depend upon money or conformity. So it's not about money and it's not about conformity. Any 2 or 3 alcoholics gathered together for sobriety may call themselves an AA group, provided that as a group they have no other affiliation. So a desire to stop drinking, full stop. That's the admission point, if you like, just a desire to stop. With respect to its own affairs, each AA group should be responsible to no other authority than its own conscience, the group conscience, not my conscience. But when it plans concern the welfare of neighbouring groups also, those groups ought to be consulted, and no group, regional committee or individual should ever take any action that might greatly affect AA as a whole, without conferring with the trustees of the General Service Board. On such issues our common welfare is paramount, and when we refer it to or confer with the trustees are appointed on behalf of the members. It's not a corporate board, and they have no power unless it's given to them by the majority. And even then, it can change whenever it needs to. How am I doing? Yes. 5. Each Alcoholics Anonymous group ought to be a spiritual entity having one primary purpose, that of carrying its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. And the spiritual message for me, or spiritual entity, is living in reality today. And with that primary purpose in mind, a desire to stop drinking and stay stopped. 6. Problems of money, property and authority may easily divert us from our primary spiritual aim. We think, therefore, that any considerable property of genuine use to AA should be separately incorporated and managed, thus dividing the material from the spiritual. An AA group, as such, should never go into business. Secondary aids to AA, such as clubs or hospitals, which require much property or administration, ought to be incorporated and set apart that, if necessary, they can be freely discarded by the groups. Hence, such facilities ought not to use the AA name. In other words, AA remains there for fellowship, individuals and sobriety. But hospitals, as well as other places of recuperation, ought to be well outside AA and medically supervised. While an AA group may cooperate with anyone, such cooperation ought never to go so far as affiliation or endorsement, actual or implied. An AA group can bind itself to no one. In other words, it remains free of anything to do with the material. It's a spiritual entity. 7. The AA groups themselves ought to be fully supported by the voluntary contributions of their members. We think that each group should soon achieve this ideal. That any public solicitation of funds using the name of AA is highly dangerous, whether by groups, clubs, hospitals or other outside agencies. That acceptance of large gifts from any source, or of contributions carrying any obligation whatever, is unwise, because it has an indirect influence on people's behaviour. Then too we view with much concern those AA treasuries which continue beyond prudent reserves to accumulate funds for no stated AA purpose. Experience has often warned us that nothing can so surely destroy our spiritual heritage as futile disputes over property, money and authority. Now that's just like society. Yes. 8. Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional. We define professionalism as the occupation of counselling alcoholics for fee or hire, but we may employ alcoholics where they are going to perform those services for which we might otherwise have to engage non-alcoholics. Such special services may well be recompensed, but our usual AA 12-step work is never to be paid for, so it's never about money. Thank goodness. 9. Each AA group needs the least possible organisation. Rotating leadership is the best, so nobody feels they've got power, because we are trusted servants, we're not power brokers in AA. The small group may elect its secretary, the large group its rotating committee, and the groups of a large metropolitan area their central or intergroup committee, which often employs a full-time secretary. The trustees of the General Service Board are, in effect, our AA General Service Committee. They are custodians of our traditions and receivers of voluntary AA contributions, by which we maintain our AA General Service Office at New York. Trusted servants, not power brokers. They are authorised by groups to handle our overall public relations, and they guarantee the integrity of our principal newspaper, the AA Grapevine. All such representatives are to be guided in the spirit of service, for true leaders in AA are but trusted and experienced servants of the whole. They derive no real authority from their titles. They do not govern. Universal respect is the key to that usefulness. Tradition 10. No AA group or member should ever in such way as to implicate AA express any opinion on outside controversial issues, particularly those of politics, alcohol reform or sectarian religion. The AA groups oppose no one. Concerning such matters they can express no views whatsoever. But as individuals, apart from AA, they can. But they can't affiliate with AA on that. Our relations with the general public should be characterised by personal anonymity. Yes, we think AA ought to avoid sensational advertising. Our names and pictures as AA members ought not to be broadcast, filmed or publicly printed. Our public relations should be guided by the principle of attraction rather than promotion. And that for me is the key. Attraction, what you see is what you get. Promotion is a guarantee. And as I always say, there are no guarantees in recovery except one day, doing our best to be sober. There is never need to praise ourselves. We feel it better to let our friends recommend us. And finally, Tradition 12, we of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the principle of anonymity has an immense spiritual significance within the fellowship. That's my words, within the fellowship. It reminds us that we are to place principles before personalities, that we are actually to practice a genuine humility. This is to the end that our great blessings may never spoil us, that we shall forever live in thankful contemplation of Him who presides over us all, whoever you think Him may be. There you go, the 12 traditions long form. And when it comes to tradition 11 and 12, never underestimate my opinion around anonymity. Anonymity provides sanctuary for me to find the truth, and for me truth is the spiritual foundation of living. You see my face, what you see is what you get. One voice sharing how AA helps him, me, and I will always be grateful for what AA does for me daily. Love, to be able to love, be loved and useful again. And I make nothing out of these videos. I sometimes make people cross, sometimes I don't. So what's important to me is sobriety, one day at a time. The doors of AA are open to anyone. The 12-step program works if you work it, one day at a time, and we are forever learning. Humility is the key in the 12 steps, the ability to keep on learning one day at a time, and learn from our mistakes. Let go ego, let in good conscience, or God, as you choose to believe. The serenity prayer to God or good conscience, as you understand. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. For me is just for today. DonInLondon, hello. December the 20th, 2009. My video is all about recovery from addiction. Addiction either to substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour, quite as addictive. Work, relationships, collecting, filling a gap inside me. And trying to be perfect, and never so. Driven by fear, putting on a brave face, utilising ego too much, to the extreme, to cover up whatever that fear was. And I suspect it was fear of being found out, of not being good enough. And it's a tremendous disabler to have that fear inside. And we don't know we've got it, really, if we've had it from a very young age, because it's there always, but we don't know what it is. Just some ill feeling or discontent or irritability. And what did I do? Somebody gave me a drink when I was very young, and it took the edge off. It took the edge off in a most pleasant way. It took away the fear, the gap, made me relaxed, convivial, joyful, and I was far too young. And I stopped learning how to deal with those fears or those feelings, and drink offered an opportunity to push down the feelings and pretend to be okay. Didn't always pretend, because I started to learn that it was okay to have a drink and then to feel okay. So from conviviality to dependence to addiction, and it seems it took me a long time to understand that dependence came quite early and addiction came quite late, but it was always there in some form or other, and I didn't understand it, and I would look down on drunks who couldn't hold their liquor. And I never knew that I would become one of those drunks who was unable to hold his liquor and was quite unable to stop. So, what happened to me? Well, I ended up in the gutter, looking up at everybody else, staring at them, judging them as foolish and stupid, and blaming the world for all my woes and problems. And of course the world didn't do anything to me. I kept on doing things to myself. And why on earth would a person who has enough intellectual capacity, drive, determination and ambition to successfully climb 2 career ladders at least and survive in some very difficult situations, finally break down? And the answer was simply striving to be perfect and doing what I thought was right so that you would like me or I would fit in, broke me because my self-will failed. And I exhausted myself with work, relationships and drinking. And the torment in all of this is, as we get to addiction, we have no understanding that self-will is keeping us drinking, because that's the only thing that's working, until it doesn't work anymore. And then the rest of the story is calamity, disaster. And we're very lucky if we find any form of recovery at all. So what helped me? Family, friends, community, professionals, kept me alive long enough to have a breakthrough. And that simple breakthrough was, I cannot do this on my own, and I'm stuck, and it cannot get any worse, because I've gone through the long period of waking up, not wanting to be awake, and not even wishing to be alive. So these days, one day at a time, I'm able to make life work. I feel life as it is today as best I can. There is always going to be some, I suppose, denial, because that's just part of human nature, about my whole overall condition, but that's just part of life. But generally, I get the balance right in my feelings. Happy, sad, love, hate, or whatever is going on. I have my repertoire of emotions back, and they tell me what is going on for me. And then I can think about it and say to myself, how am I feeling, why, what can I do? So that moment of clarity, I cannot do it on my own, led to an understanding that there was help out there for me. And it came in the form of a fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous, and we're very lucky if we ever get that far, because most people get stuck in the melody, cannot get out of it, and have a prolonged, miserable time drinking because they have to. And it is a disease, it's a sickness of the emotions and also the body. So unless you have it, you don't understand it, which is quite understandable. Why should you understand something you haven't got? But if you do have it, denial will keep us drinking as long as it takes to kill us if we don't understand what is going on. So when we feel the need to take the edge off with a drink, it's an indicator that something is not working in our lives. And the biggest coping strategy open to anybody, because it's legal, is to drink. So it's difficult, it's very difficult. And culture says a man is a man when he drinks as much as he can and still holds his liquor. And that applies to women these days too. So whoever we are set up inevitably by the way we look at our drinking behaviour. So AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, was the way for me. Maybe 1 in 100 gets the message of those who try it. And it's not for want of trying that people want to stop. It's because they can't. And judgment of oneself and judgment of others is the biggest disabler, because we see the malady in other people, and we're not as bad as that, are we? So what does AA do for me? Here's the preamble, which is shared at every meeting. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I'm just about getting about in London at the moment, so I did get to a meeting last night, but I have severe pain and it's not going away and it's getting worse. But that's just the way it is, just at the moment. And that meeting was good because it was all about what is it like to get into recovery when we're new. And in the room, obviously, people who are very brand new, people who have just started on their journey of sobriety, through to people with 35 years last night. And the message is the same. If we are willing, open and honest, and face the truth, and can accept what is going on for us, we have a chance to live choices today. And that's to be sober. So it's a one-day program with 12 steps of action. And those 12 steps of action keep me going to help me with my attitude and behaviour, so that I understand where I am and that life can work. And December is all about the 12th step of AA, which is all about sharing the message with newcomers and generally about what sobriety is like. And I have to say today, even though I'm in abject pain, the gift is I'm alive, I'm sort of functioning, and my outlook isn't so bad, because the pain will go eventually, I hope. And the daily reflections which I share here, this book, coming to the end, because it's nearly the end of the year, December the 20th, it says this: the rewards of giving. This is indeed the kind of giving that actually demands nothing. He does not expect his brother sufferer or sister sufferer to pay him or even love him. And then he discovers, by the divine paradox of this kind of giving, he has found his own reward, whether his brother or sister has yet received anything or not. And that's about sharing the message. Through experience with 12-step work, I came to understand the rewards of giving that demands nothing in return. At first I expected recovery in others, but I soon learned that this did not happen. Once I acquired the humility to accept that fact, that every 12-step call was not going to result in a success, then I was open to receive the rewards of selfless giving. And it's a bit like unconditional love. It's just the way it is. And the gift in all of this is acceptance. So I end these videos with the serenity prayer to God of your understanding, or simply good conscience. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is and remains for me just for today.